At the beginning of our movie, we meet a baby boy born on a small farm in South Africa. His name is Peter Cath, but everyone calls him Pike. We learn that his father died a few days before he was born. As time goes on, his family begins to face problems. A few years after these events, a dangerous disease suddenly begins to spread among the animals on the farm. This causes all their cows to die, and his mother, Peaky, is devastated by this tragedy. She begins to feel that she won't be able to run the farm the way her husband used to, but she doesn't want her son's education to be affected by the circumstances they're going through. So she sends him to a boarding school, and the school is run by nurses from Africa. And everyone there consists of people who fled Europe and Africa hundreds of years ago. Becky considers black people to be very different from her, but at the same time, she doesn't like the British and hates them. On her first day at school, when Becky attends history class, the teacher begins telling the students about the war between Africans and the British. All the students listen to the lesson with great interest, and the teacher tells them how evil the British were and how they used to control other peoples. At that moment, BK realized he was the only British kid at the school. All the students were staring at him with hostility, and from that moment on, he became their enemy. But that wasn't enough. Suddenly, a boy sitting behind him started picking on him, and everyone began to hate him and turn against him. The class was against him from day one, and the days that followed weren't easy for Becky at all. We see a boy named Volta come with his friends and drag Becky into the bathroom. Then they drag him out, take him aside, and all gang up on him, even hitting him. The poor boy is subjected to so much bullying and is so terrified that he wets himself while he's asleep. And as if all that weren't enough, the very next day, he gets the news that his mother has passed away. So he goes back home to attend her funeral. He regrets agreeing to leave his mother during her time of need and tells himself that maybe if he'd stayed with her, she'd still be alive today. And now he has no one left but his grandfather, who lives in another country. Before he goes to school, he tells his nanny what happened when the other kids at school bullied him. And we know that his nanny loves him just like her own son. To solve his problem, they turn to a man named Dabala Monzi, who is their tribe's healer, and ask him to cast out the fear from Becky's body. After this fear-casting session, they have the boy stand in front of an elephant to help him overcome his fear. When the elephant lets out a loud noise, Becky doesn't run away from it, and when the elephant gets close to him, he touches its trunk with his hand. And now, Becky is completely over his fear. Also, the tribe gives Becky a rooster before he goes to school, believing that this rooster will protect him. Now, whenever a mischievous boy comes to bother Becky, the rooster crows at him. And yes, it doesn't make much of a difference, but at least it gives Becky time to get ready. Then, after World War II, we return to a time when the atmosphere of war is everywhere, and the students who used to hate the British start seeing Hitler as their hero. They have only one target at school, Becky. One day, all the students grab him and drag him to Preston. Preston was the son of a dictator. He beat up Becky and killed his rooster just to show him how strong he was. Now, Becky's fear turns to anger, so he spits on Preston and knocks him down. To get revenge, Preston hangs him by his feet, intending to kill him. In the end, the teacher arrives and punishes Preston for what he did and expels him from school for trying to kill a second student. After the incident, Becky returns to her grandfather, who has also returned from abroad, but he isn't yet ready to take on the responsibility of caring for Becky, so he entrusts her upbringing to a man named Doc. Doc arrives after fleeing Germany during Hitler's reign. His entire family was killed by the Nazis, and so they had no one else in the world but each other. Over time, life went on smoothly, and Doc taught Becky how to live her life. But one day, Doc was arrested by the British police because he had concealed the fact that he was German. The British imprisoned him, but the prison warden and many of the guards were German as well. So they would let Becky visit Doc whenever he wanted, so the boy wouldn't feel alone. That's how Becky and Doc's bond remained strong, even while he was locked up. But the problem remained the same. Becky was constantly bullied at school. Doc understood her situation and took Gil under his wing to train him. We know that Gil spent almost his entire life in prison, and now, at Doc's request, he's become Becky's boxing coach. The first thing he explains to her is that she needs to use her brain first. Then he asks Doc to get him some cigarettes in exchange for his first training session. But Sergeant Borman overhears this and, without any warning, beats Gil in front of everyone. But Gil endures the pain, and when Becky sees this, he decides that he's the one who will get Gil his cigarettes, whatever it takes. After that, Becky trains, and over time he grows and his boxing skills improve. He also participates in the prison boxing tournament, and prison teaches Becky everything. He's now a dangerous and very strong young man, and he's able to earn the respect of the Black Africans by winning the tournament. He gets cigarettes into the prison by hiding cigarettes in the garden. One day, Gil is on his way to his cell carrying a bucket of cigarettes from Becky, but Officer Borman catches him. Gil empties the bucket, but Borman knows the truth. Borman tells him, "You've become a cigarette addict," then stomps his boot into the tobacco and mud and tells him to lick it. He takes great pleasure in humiliating him this way. When Becky comes to see him, Gil tells him that one day he'll expose his true nature to the whole world and then punish him for all the pain he's caused. A few days later, news arrives of Hitler's death and the end of the war. When Doc hears this, he's overjoyed in his hope of returning to his country. But Becky is very upset because she doesn't want Doc to leave and abandon her. And he keeps telling Borman that he's a coward. When Borman hears this, he gets very angry and beats Jail very hard with the stick he's holding, and Jail gets seriously injured on the other side. Meanwhile, Becky realizes that Jail isn't anywhere, so he runs after him. But by the time he reaches him, it's too late because he's dying. But before he dies, he thanks Becky for uniting the Black tribes and keeps repeating what he said to Becky the first time. After that, Doc is put in charge of the reception party they're throwing to celebrate the commissioner's arrival, and Gil takes advantage of this opportunity to write a song in an African language mocking the guards. The day of the party arrives, and everyone is on edge. The warden warns everyone, telling them that if anything goes wrong, their celebration will turn into punishment. But as soon as the music starts, all the prisoners sing along, overjoyed, and the guards are puzzled because they don't understand a thing. Meanwhile, Gil is still finishing up his laundry when Borman catches him and starts beating him, asking him what the lyrics are. At first, Gil thinks about it a lot, but then he says it means the guards are cowards, and he tells him to always use his head before his heart. A few years later, we see Becky all grown up, a tall, broad-shouldered young man. He's now studying at an English-speaking university in Johannesburg and continues to box for the university team. One day, during a match, Becky goes down after the first punch, and there she is, loses the match. But he sees a beautiful girl in front of him cheering him on and telling him to get up. At that moment, he hears the chant coming from outside. It's the chant of the Black students who aren't allowed inside the stadium and can only watch from outside. Of course, all of this encourages Becky to keep going. He gets back on his feet and keeps punching his opponent until he wins. Everyone is busy cheering for Becky, but he keeps looking for the girl he saw. Then, with the help of his friend Maurice, he manages to find her and learns that her name is Maria and that she's the daughter of a man named Daniel, who is a senior leader of the African Party. Becky wants to meet this girl, so he gathers his courage and enters the girl's dormitory at night to meet Maria on the balcony of her room. They talk for a short while, but Becky promises her that he'll bring up the subject of marriage with her father the next day. The next day, Maury takes Becky to the black and white gym where they train together, and he also meets a guy named Hobie who owns the gym and is a very talented boxing coach. Hobie is also impressed by Becky's boxing skills and decides to train him himself. But despite all this, Becky is still in front of the mirrors. Then he goes to Maria's house the next day to talk to her father. But her father rejects him and tells him not to even think about it again, not even in his dreams. But Maria doesn't care. She defies her father and goes to the gym to meet Becky. A little while later, Elias interrupts Becky, and we learn that Yas was in prison with Jill and that he used to be a boxer. He tells him that whenever his match was on, he was the one who gathered the crowd outside to watch him. Then he introduces Becky to Dom, who challenges Becky, telling him that black people have the same rights as everyone else and asking him to face him. Becky accepts the challenge without any hesitation, and he goes with him to Alexandria, a city with a very high poverty rate among black people, and lots of people come to watch the match between Becky and Dom. We see the two of them facing off, and both play really well, but the smoke affects TKK, and Dom knocks Becky out with a single punch. But Becky doesn't give up. As soon as the second round starts, Becky always manages to find a weak spot, but Duma always beats him again. When Becky goes down, all the things that happened to him during his childhood start flashing before his eyes, and he decides he can't give up. In the next round, Becky hits him with a powerful blow, and Duma is always taken by surprise by each strike, each one stronger than the last, until Duma finally falls, and Becky is the one who wins. But no one in the arena is happy about what happened, because everyone there was rooting for Duma. Suddenly, the whole place falls silent. But Duma admires Becky's boxing style, so he stands up, raises Becky's hand, and says that he's the real warrior who won't accept defeat. After that, everyone dances happily, and they all start treating Becky as their hero. He knows that Jill talked about him a lot, saying he wasn't like the rest, and that he also united the black tribes in prison. And now, all these stories are spreading more and more. After a while, Becky returns to the university and wants to see Maria. He tells her everything that happened in Alexandria and how people are living under very difficult conditions. The next day, Becky goes back there to coach the kids with Duma. As he walks through the village, he sees a very long line in front of the bathroom and realizes that the government is providing only one bathroom for 200 people, and that conditions here are very difficult. He also realizes that 2% of the people here are educated. He realizes that, until today, he had been living a happy life and thought the whole world was like him. Doma always asks him, "So why don't you teach these kids English?" Doma always wants the kids here to be ready for challenges, but Becky knows the situation isn't easy at all because Afro Corner won't let him do that. Then he always thinks and tells him, "You're a warrior. You can't give up. You're the only one who managed to unite all the tribes in prison." And his words have an impact on Becky. But he's still nervous, though he also feels for these people and their difficult circumstances. Then the university president comes and asks him to teach them too and give them the chance to study. Becky tells him this with such enthusiasm that the president agrees, but says that Becky himself will have to teach them. After that, Becky goes to meet with Maria. The first thing she asks him is if he'll go to the party with her, but Becky tells her that parties aren't important and that if she goes and sees these people's situation, she'll understand. That night, Maria has dinner at home with her family, and she too is weighed down by her concern for the people in Alexandria. When she hears her family saying harsh things about black people, she gets very upset and says she wants to go to Alexandria and fight for these poor people's rights, because after all, we are the ones who came to their country, not the other way around. When Daniel hears this, he gets very angry, stands up, and threatens to stab her with a pen. Meanwhile, Becky and Maurice welcome Duma and his friends and welcome them at the university from Alexandria. But even this isn't without its dangers, because the next day during class, Maria suddenly shows up and tells him that she also wants to help him teach these people. And Becky thanks her, but says she shouldn't come here so they don't get caught. The next day, the principal asks to speak with Becky, and his words are very harsh because he tells her that the university has received orders from Colonel Booth, or his assistant, Britton, to suspend the black students' studies. It turns out that Booth and Britton are the same guys who used to bully and harass him back in the school bathroom, and now they have joined the police and are looking for Daniel. However, the two of them are spying on Becky and Maurice. The next day, the principal asks to meet with them in his office again and tells them that they both have a chance to attend Oxford University on a full scholarship. Getting into Oxford is the dream of every student who... But Becky realizes that Daniel is doing this to steer them away from the path they're on. A few days later, while Becky is working out in the gym, Fratton shows up with his men to shut down the gym and blame Becky's behavior at school for what happened. For no reason at all, Fratton tells the group to kill everyone present there and directly warns them that he won't allow black people to mix with white people to this extent. He wants to show his power through these actions, and Becky thinks he'll be able to overcome what the government is doing. Eventually, he decides to enroll at Oxford University and focus on himself. He goes to convince Maria to go with him and Becky, and as he's walking in a hurry, he runs into Hobie, the gym owner, who's painting a mural in front of the gym depicting a white person and a black person facing off. He sees this as a very powerful statement against the government and decides that he won't be afraid of anyone and is determined to stick to his plan. to keep the gym open only to white and black people. But the very next day, Breton shows up with his men, kicks everyone out, and sets the gym on fire. The police arrest Hobie to take him to jail. At that moment, Hobie tells Becky not to stop fighting, and he's not actually referring to boxing. He's telling him not to stop fighting and to defend the truth. When Becky hears Hobie's words, he decides he won't give up easily either and starts training black people with the help of Mauricio and Maria. During this time, he uses the church as their secret hideout, and everything going perfectly until Braden and his men storm into the church and a confrontation begins between the two sides. In the midst of all this, Maria is struck in the face with a stick and dies instantly after falling to the ground. Becky can't take any more of this, and Daniel is about to explode with rage as he stands at her funeral, wanting to kill Becky, but Becky isn't afraid of him. Just then, they hear a voice coming toward them. It's the voice of all the students Alexandra had been teaching, the same ones Maria had been studying with. They come with their families, and this situation forces Daniel to distance himself from him. After Maria's death, Becky feels broken. She feels she's no longer brave and that she's given up. She goes to Dom to tell him and her brother that she's abandoned the cause and has decided to go to Oxford because she can't go on anymore. There, he sees the children speaking English, just as Becky had taught them. It is then that he realizes what matters most to him is to stay here and defy the circumstances. He sets aside the idea of going to Oxford and decides they must continue the fight. That night, the situation suddenly takes a turn at Alexandra as a group of soldiers arrives and begins harassing people, asking where Becky is. Whenever they hear this, they start running. As they run through the crowd, Britton shoots Duma in the leg, but Duma tells Becky to run, and everyone helps Becky escape. The bullet hits Duma's leg, but it only grazes him. But then he sees Colonel Boda there. So he gets angry, seizes the opportunity, grabs a spear, and thrusts it into Boda's chest, killing him. Meanwhile, Breton is about to kill Elias, but Becky attacks him. Finally, he seizes the chance to take his revenge on Breton, beating him until he's knocked out. Then, Breton seizes the opportunity and pulls out his gun to kill Breton. But just then, Duma arrives with his wooden stick and hits Breton very hard in the face with it, causing Breton's death. In the end, Duma and Breton escape from there, helping each other, and agree that they won't rest until the situation changes. That's where today's movie ends. Stay tuned for new summary videos.